do you think about when you hear the name Ilkley and the famous moorland that bears its name? Do you think about the Cow and Calf Rocks, or do you think about walking on this moor bar tat? I'll tell you what I think about when I think of Ilkley. I think of Jimi Hendrix.
I played with him the first night he arrived.
With Hendrix?
Yeah, he jammed down a club called the Scottish St James, and I got up and played with him. And he was a little bit obnoxious to me. He kept screaming at me. The chord we were supposed to be playing was A. You know, and then he found out afterwards that the guitar that he borrowed was tuned to semitone down. So he'd be playing an A flat.
Yeah.
He apologised afterwards, and a few days later he actually asked me to join his band.
In the 1960s, the Troutbeck Hotel, as it was then known, and particularly its club, the Gyro Club, played host to some of the legendary names in blues and rock music in this country. And one name in particular, a man who became later known as the world's greatest ever guitarist, entertained the people of this district in early 1967. And I've come here to meet three lads who remember it well. Let's start with you then, Vince. Tell us about the night that Jimi Hendrix played Ilkley.
Well, for us it was a normal Sunday night. We came here every Sunday. But it was just a bit special this time because we'd heard about this new American guitarist on his way up had been booked. So us and possibly 500 others appeared at the doors against the normal 150. You know, there were queues right down the hotel, right outside. And the atmosphere was just buzzing, you know, as all these kids wanted to see this, you know, way out new guitarist.
You take the story up then, Martin. What's your part in it? When did you arrive?
When did I arrive?
Yeah.
Well, I was here early in the evening, as normal. We'd come here every Sunday night. And this was the amount of people, it was unbelievable.
And you, Peter, you were a regular here, weren't you? So you'll be one at first in.
That's right, yes, yes. The place was packed, as everybody said, you know, and the heat, it was intense, you know.
It was just anticipation of seeing this novel guitarist, and when he struck up, it wasn't noise, it was sheer power that hit you, you know, and you thought, God, what's that, you know? And then he laid into this guitar, you know, with total dexterity of it, and yet at the same time, it was something new.
And what happened next?
He finished that one and he got about a few bars into the second number, possibly. And then this gentleman in a gabardine coat got on stage, followed by a uniformed officer. Apparently the local police, and they said due to problems of overcrowding, they couldn't let the performance continue. So then there was a few shouts of, oh dear, what a shame. And, well, things just went on from that, you know. There was a bit of chaos, and so it was everybody out.
I was just paying what we called a supervisory visit. All supervisory officers used to visit different licensed premises just as a matter to ensure that the Licensing Act was being complied with.
Yes.
And I just walked in and I was met with all these people. The manager said there was over 900 in.
And how many should it?
There should have been 250. That's the fire service regulation for the granting of the license. 250 maximum on the hotel. And when I looked into the ballroom, they were shoulder to shoulder. And I had to push my way through to get to the edge of the stage. And I spoke to the chap playing the guitar. I didn't know who he was.
Jimi Hendrix.
That's who it would be.
Yeah.
And he didn't stop playing.
I bet you didn't know the career of John Entwistle, the Who's bass player, could have taken a very different direction. He could have been playing with Jimi Hendrix that night in Ilkley.
A few days later, he actually asked me to join his band. The experience, and I said no. So he got his new bass player, Noel Redding, to phone me up and say, "What equipment do you use?" Jimmy told me I've got to buy the same stuff as you've got.
So Noel Redding went out shopping and bought and copied your...
Yeah, I bought a jazz bass, wrote sound strings, 2 Marshall amplifiers, 4 412 cabinets. And I turned up in Monterey with borrowed equipment, and he turned up with the same stuff as me.
Did you realise how great Hendrix was, though, immediately? Did you know?
Well, when I played with him, he was just basically a good blues guitarist. I mean, the only real thing that he had was the wobbly finger bit. Yeah. And I used to go and see a lot of bands in those days, and every time I turned up in an audience, he'd be standing with Chas Chandler next to me. Yeah, going. And I think Hendrix ended up as a cross between Jimmy Page, Pete Townsend, and Jeff Beck. Yeah. With a little bit of Clapton.
Hendrix went on, of course, to be the guitar hero. And the gig he played that night at Ilkley's Gyro Club also passed into legend.
Jimmy, in his haste, had whacked it up to full volume and just kept backing into the amp slowly, so hence voluminous feedback, you know. Eventually they got it switched off, but not until it caused considerable irritation to the police. You know.
But for one lucky couple, the night wasn't over yet.
So we decided to call for fish and chips, and we'd actually been through here and gone outside, and we stood just outside. Yeah. And we'd basically eaten our fish and chips, yeah, and just finishing off. And it was actually Sheila that noticed Hendrix stood in the queue.
Right, so you'll take the story up now, Sheila. You've got your fish and chips in your hand. I'll have a chip while I'm at it. On the night, you've got your fish and chips. You sat on a wall, and what?
We were just talking among ourselves, and I was busy watching people around at the same time, and spotted Hendrix in the queue for the takeaway fish and chips, and nudged Dave. Couldn't believe our eyes. Yeah.
Was it still in his stage gear, or what?
Whether it was the actual stage gear, I'm not sure, but it was still very flamboyant.
Psychedelic gear?
That's right.
Not what you would expect to find in Guiseley, I don't think, at that time. And so I rummaged in my handbag for something to ask for his autograph, went over to him, and he was really, really nice.
Can you remember what he said to you?
I think he said something about, we said we'd been at the Troutbeck. Yeah. And he said he was really sorry that he hadn't been able to do the gig. And he asked me to turn around so he could sign the autograph across my back. Not literally on my back, but on the photograph.
So you got your back to Hendrix and he's pressing on your back?
Yeah, he signed the autograph and still got it.
Do you feel a bit of a spoil sport?
No, because I had visions that if a fire started or there was a fight started or some incident started, there could have been panic and people could have got injured.
Even today, everything that's relevant to music evolved after that time, you know. I was part of it. I was there.